And we're back. Future Hidden Movie Gems. Jordan.
Tatiana.
Today we are talking about a movie called Duel. This is the same director that made Art of Self-Defense and Faults. Both excellent films. Faults is my favorite. Then I'd say Art of Self-Defense and Duel. I'm really excited to talk about this because there's parts I really love. And then, it's not his best film.
Okay. And I have to take your word for it because I haven't seen the other two.
Yeah, I don't know if you would like them. Maybe. I mean...
You showed me the trailers. And I've noticed in those trailers that they all talk the same way. Like, the main actor's like, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, and I've grown to love it, especially because
cool.
It's pretty similar to the director that does the movie The Lobster. And I'm going back and I'm starting to watch more of his older films. He has this interesting style, and The Killing of the Sacred Deer. It's just like where every character sounds almost like their children.
Oh.
And when they speak to each other, it just sounds so... Maybe they all are autistic or something.
Oh, interesting.
Where they say, well, that's completely illogical. Of course you wouldn't do that. Or, I would like a handgun, sir, and that wouldn't fit in my hand. Like, I don't even know if that's autistic's even the right word.
No.
It's just a style.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it. This, I don't know what it is lacking,
Very
though.
matter of fact. That's the style of the speaking. Very matter of fact. Like, this is that, and that is this, and this and that.
It kind of feels like the entire movie is like an infomercial. Is that
yeah.
Like
a
really old one.
Yeah.
I mean, they even have an infomercial where they're discussing cloning yourself.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Which is really...
And then it's the same kind of talking.
Yeah, and that one's really funny. I love that. So the only thing, I feel bad to go right into nitpicks, but I'm just thinking of movies that do clones of people, like Enemy or this, or we just watched another old one we forgot to mention, which is Big Business.
Oh, yeah.
And we watched that like right after we would watch Duel, like the very next day or the same week. Mm-hmm. And I just remember thinking, wow, I felt like they almost did it better in Big Business, which is, way older than Duel. And just because there's moments where I'm like, she's not quite meeting her eye line. I mean, it's still pretty difficult to do, but there's just moments I'm like, oh, you couldn't have like had another person sitting down exactly where she was supposed to sit. Like a lot of times they just have like a tennis ball or something they can look at. And I'm like, you're going to miss their eye line. And they did that a few times where it just is a bit distracting. And for me, it just drives me a little nuts. Like, I'm just like, I know that person's not in the room with themselves.
Yeah, and it's something I wasn't looking for, and I didn't notice it at all, but I wasn't looking for it, so.
Yeah, I wish that wouldn't distract me. Maybe because I've made so many movies over the years, it's just like, I'm constantly like, she's not actually in the room with another person. And there was only like one or two responses that I was like, that she responded in kind of a weird way. It was like, because her tone like jumped up, or it was just like, it almost seemed like she wasn't actually having that conversation with herself, because she wasn't. And so anyways, those are things that bother me. Perhaps that's something people don't even think about, because a lot of it was really well done. But the things I do love about it is it does remind me of like a Black Mirror episode. And I am a huge fan of Black Mirror. I love this idea of a dystopian... What they do is essentially they pick an idea, like cloning, for example, and they kind of dive into the dark side of that idea. And what could happen that could be bad. Yes. From this. And then it kind of turns into this Twilight Zone episode where it's just kind of this dark, foreboding kind of presence of like the idea that you're like, oh shoot, this got dark kind of thing. Right. It's a dark comedy. Yeah. Like the idea that, and my favorite part at the end, and actually made me like it more, was discussing it with you. Just like walking out of the theater.
What a thinker. We were talking for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, because the idea that, what was it that we loved so much about it? It was like...
There are a couple things. I mean, you see at the end that the bad clone, or the clone ends up winning, but she doesn't really win because she ends up feeling like...
Well, she cheats. They were going to run away together.
Yeah,
and she kills her in the forest.
Okay, and like be like, why do either of us have to die? But then
I like they don't tell us it's the clone, even though we know it is, because she's the bad driver.
Oh, yes, yeah. So the clone that ends up quote unquote winning at the end, she's actually she stops in her car and just like screams and cries and is miserable at the end because she ends up being bugged by the same things that the other girl's getting bugged by, that the original is getting bugged by, and it's like, yeah, you thought you'd you'd conquer, but you didn't.
Well, I remembered what I love so much about this is the entire movie we're following not the clone, but the normal girl.
Yes.
And her development as a character.
Yes.
Because at the very beginning, she's so disconnected. It's
so
not till
numb.
Yeah, and it's not till she has a clone that she realizes how disconnected and how selfish she is, and
Right.
how she doesn't do anything, and her mom doesn't even, her boyfriend don't even want her. Like, they actually say, like, they're actually rooting for the clone to kill her.
Yeah, that's the darkest of the darkness of the movie.
That they're just the worst. Like, they even lock her out of her own house.
Crazy.
Or out of her mom's house.
Yeah,
And they
it's
want the
insane.
clone to be over instead of her. And that's when she realizes, oh my goodness, like, and she starts to change, and she starts to make an effort. And her development as a character up until the end is really awesome. And I love that so much, because by the end, you realize that, because before she was so disconnected, she was just home, she was numb to everything, and she wasn't really doing anything. She just kind of sat around the house. And it wasn't until the end, like, she was active, and she was actually starting to connect and feel.
Yes.
And she cared.
Yes.
And then she wanted to even let the other clone live, and they're planning to run away, and then she dies. And I love that. And just thinking about that idea was what made me love it so much.
Yeah, and obviously, like, the whole, like, cloning thing is not applicable to, real life, but what really struck me of, like, what this seems to be similar to is, like, situations where, because she was depressed at the end, the whole being numb thing, like, she clearly was depressed. And there was even this theme of, like, when she hired her trainer to help her with the combat, with the duels, because that's the whole thing is the society forces the clones to fight each other if something complicated happens and the other person ends up living and not dying. And if the other clone has been around for a certain number of months or whatever. It's very interesting. But brain fart. Oh yeah, so when she was finding her combat trainer and he was like, "Do you want to live?" And she's like, "Yes." Like, he's like, "I don't believe you." And she actually shows, like, you see by the end of the movie, like, no, she sincerely does want to live, and she really does care about things like you were saying, and all that. And I think what it reminds me of is, like, there might be family members of people that are going through a depression that think, like, oh, there's really no hope for my family member to feel better. Like, they're just always going to be depressed and they don't really care, or I don't know, they just might kind of give up hope on them. And the reality was, things that her family couldn't see is that actually she does care about things, like, and honestly, and there was a lot of hope for her. Like, she ended up making a bunch of improvements once she had a cause. She just needed a cause to be a part of, and for her it was like this intense training of getting ready for this combat.
Yeah, because she had almost not a lot to live for.
Yeah.
Or and it was like she wanted, and she realized, oh wait, I do want to live.
I do have a lot to live for, and I do want to live.
Yes, because I think before it was almost like she wasn't even living.
Right.
And so dying almost wouldn't have been so bad. It actually, the mom was more happy about it. So was the boyfriend, because they both love the clone more.
Yeah.
Which I also actually think is another fun part, is how selfish they are. Like, the mom just wanted, and then what was fun was the clone started to realize, like, wait a minute, I'm not being myself. I'm being her.
What they want me to be.
And I'm not even being her. I'm being what the fiance wants me to be.
Yes.
Or boyfriend, and what my new mom wants me to be. And they love it because they're, like, essentially making her, like, oh, you like this food, right? And she's like,
and then by the
"No."
end, when there's no longer this competition to, like, with someone else to keep the mom and the fiance, to have them on her side, now all of a sudden she's more free to be more honest, and she's like, I don't like that food. And then the boyfriend is realizing, like, oh, she's actually a lot more similar to the previous version that I discarded than I thought.
Yep, and you can see it in their face. It's already started. Like, you can see that they're like, oh no, like, it's this, like, concern and worry, like, oh, is she gonna start being, like, having her own decisions? And
yep,
because, like I said, these people are so selfish.
Yeah.
They just want, now it's making me think of the movie we watched last night. Just, they want this fantasy girl, or at least the boyfriend does. He wants the Marilyn Monroe.
Oh, right.
Like, I don't even think Marilyn Monroe knows who she truly is.
Yes.
Because she's just being
She has a sad history where, she felt like she had to be a certain thing to get the job, the career that she had.
Yeah, we were just watching Some Like It Hot, and it's just like seeing her character, just this like every guy's creeper's dream is just like, oh, she acts kind of like a ditz, and like,
and she's
always
very
flirty,
attractive, and just her whole demeanor comes off as like, I'm just gonna be really pleasing.
Just she's always biting her lip and giving googly eyes, and singing about love, and that she's like, oh, and I'm not too bright, like
they wrote that into her character. That's so funny. I'm not too bright.
But it totally makes me think of what the boyfriend wanted her to be. Is like, I want you to be this way. I want you to love all the same things I love.
Over heels over saxophone players.
Well, and that's why it reminds me so much of The Lobster, is because The Lobster, they took it also to an extreme where they're like, you can only date the other person if you guys have a similarity. Like, you have to have one. And otherwise you can't date. It's just insane. Like, it's so ridiculous and so over the top.
Yeah.
And we kind of do it, but in real life, we try to find commonality. And especially today more than ever, it's like, I need people and only to listen to people that I think exactly like they do, and I need to agree with everything they do. Otherwise, I can't be friends with you.
Right.
It's like everybody has to be categorized into these like little slots.
Yeah, actually, we can be different.
And have different opinions and still be friends.
And still love each other and be friends,
I mean...
Actually, a really cool quote that your Aunt Michelle shared with us when we were getting married. Like, she just, in her Amazon gifts to us, she included these really cool quotes. One of them was like, what makes a strong marriage, something like that, is not how compatible they are, but how they deal with compatibility. Or incompatibility.
Yes. Oh, my goodness. I love that. And... that's why this film is so great. I feel like that elevates it. And so discussing that, I'm like, oh my gosh, Duel is actually a way better film than I gave it credit for. Because there's lots of little things that I'm like, I'm not sure how I feel about this movie. But the more I think about it, and the little attention to detail definitely makes it a better film.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that highly, especially when it comes to relationships. That movie really nails it.
Yeah.
I guess because I love Faults and Art of Self-Defense, I had just hoped it would be more like those films, which it still is. Like, the people all kind of talk similarly. I feel like he's kind of gone further every film he's done into this, like, talking that way.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just some of the characters kind of come off as robotic.
Yes.
Like, I felt like that nurse was a little bit that way.
The doctor.
Yeah. But if you go back to this movie Faults, it felt like there was a lot more, I don't know if I want to say personality to the characters, but like I felt like they were still...
They had more, like, they were more vivacious, more lively.
Thank you. Yes, because it just felt like they're starting to get a little bit more wooden.
Yeah.
As the movies go on.
Yeah, interesting.
And when they're speaking, it's like you said, they just... I kind of want a bit more into it. I mean, there's more subtlety to it, which I do appreciate. And the main girl, she's the blue bald girl from Guardians of the Galaxy that's always trying to kill her sister, the green girl.
Oh, and then also she's in...
Jumanji.
Jumanji, yeah. The thing that I was the most surprised about was that actor Theo whatever, that he's in the very first shot, or very first scene, and he's also in the trailer. I thought for sure he was... Kid? Yeah, the Divergent Kid. I thought for sure he was gonna like be a character throughout the film, but and like somehow come and help train her or something, have some kind of involvement in the rest of the film. But that was it. It was just like, oh, really? That big actor, and I guess maybe he's not a big actor, but he was at least he was in Divergent. I don't know. It was one of the main roles there. That's a big film, but well, like it was. I don't know. Never mind. It wasn't an indie film. It was like anyway. I don't know what else he's been in, so maybe it's fine. But I was just surprised, that's all.
Yes. Do we recommend it? I mean, if you like Black Mirror, if you like...
I don't think I would like Black Mirror, but I did like this film.
Well, but I'm just saying other people who like Black Mirror,
I think
would enjoy this. Maybe.
Maybe.
And, I mean, if you like his other films, Faults and The Art of Self-Defense and The Lobster, I feel like it's kind of in that wheelhouse, perhaps kind of further in the direction of... I don't know. I feel like it's a fun discussion type of movie, and that's why I love it.
Yeah. So if you're not into like a thinker movie, that's kind of pretty artsy and.
Because if you just take it on the surface level and just watch it just for entertainment,
you're not going to enjoy that.
Yeah, I didn't feel like it was as enjoyable. I would personally say watch Faults first or Art of Self-Defense for as far as entertainment goes.
But it was very intriguing and interesting. Like I was captivated the whole time, I'm pretty sure. And maybe that's just partly because like we were in a good mood to receive that kind of a movie at that time.
Yeah.
Like, we weren't like, oh man, I'm expecting something else. I don't know.
As we were talking about this, I want to hear your thoughts about Big Business and Some Like It Hot.
Big Business. Okay, Bette Midler. Oh yeah. I don't know the other actress, the other main one. I had never seen her in anything. It was kind of, that movie was over the top and it was just great. It made me smile. It was pretty funny. I mean, it was, also over the top. It's not necessarily something I'd watch again. Maybe in a group setting it'd be fun because it's kind of fun to laugh out loud at everything. And then, what was the other one?
And I love how when they're switching babies, you're like, she would not switch those babies.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's a comedy.
I know. It's just like, it's not the best made comedy. But like you said, they did a good job of making it look realistic with the twins.
Yeah, I think I loved it more growing up because watching it with Mom made it a lot more enjoyable. Because there's some movies, Mom's movies, that I like still love a lot. Like I've rewatched 9 to 5, still holds up really well. This one, for some reason, I still enjoyed it because it, brought back some memories. Maybe I needed to watch it again with Mom, but I don't know. Yeah, the humor, I wasn't like laughing out loud. I don't know.
Yeah.
Some Like It Hot.
Some Like It Hot? Yeah, that's one we just watched yesterday. And it was hilarious. It was so funny. It was also just like so surprising. I was just so surprised that your mom liked it. But like she was laughing the whole time. Like I could see like why she liked it at the same time. And it was so fun watching it with her and with just the whole crowd. We were all just laughing. It's just a funny premise, and it's just so surprising, like the year that it was made, to have all those things happening, all the cross dressing and the themes going on. Yeah, it was really funny. I wouldn't really recommend it to kids. There's a lot of like
it's got gangster violence. It's
got some murders, got some party drinking, got some cross-dressing, got some really tight-fitting outfits on Marilyn Monroe.
Well, it's funny because in black and white and from a distance...
I was like, is she wearing anything?
Yeah.
But she was. She's fully covered. It was just very... it just kind of looked like she wasn't, but she was. I mean, and honestly, her character, like, I feel bad. Like, I know a little bit about the history because I loved watching the TV show Smash. I mean, it is not by any means a perfectly made show, but it was really fun watching that with some old roommates. And they dive a little bit into the sad story and history of Marilyn Monroe. And I'm only remembering bits and pieces as I was watching it. But that was my first time ever watching like actual footage and audio of Marilyn Monroe. I'd only ever seen like those iconic photos and heard stories, but I don't think I'd ever actually watched a clip of her, in film. And honestly, I think that her acting was not that bad. Like, she did a great job of portraying the character. I just feel like it's probably the only character she like could portray at the same time. I feel like maybe she was just being herself based on what I know of her history. But when we say herself, it's like, it's sad. It's like you can tell she's not really being herself. She's just being what people want her to be.
Yeah, at least based on this movie, we've only seen this movie of her, so perhaps the other ones, but based on like images that you see, like her famous one where she's standing over the vent and she's like holding down her dress, like just based on that, and I've seen a couple images for a couple of her other movies, and I'm like, it kind of looks like she plays a similar role in the other movies as well. Yeah.
Also, her singing was great.
Yeah. I
really liked her singing. Really cool style. Love that style in general from that time period, but I just feel like she did an especially good job of executing it.
Yeah. And how about that message? Just gotta marry a rich.
Well, the message was sweet.
I'm a man. Nobody's perfect.
It was kind of sweet between her and that other guy that she was just so willing to forgive him for like lying about so many things to her, and that she didn't care that he wasn't a millionaire anymore. It's like, oh, that's great. She doesn't actually.
And the other guy didn't care that the other guy was a guy.
I know, the very last, he's like saying, no, but like this. No, but this. No, but this. And he's like, I don't care.
I can't have kids. I'm a smoker.
And at the very end, but no, takes his wig off. I'm a guy. And he's like, well, not everyone's perfect. It was a pretty funny zinger at the very end. It was just kind of, it was, I guess you could say that movie was, no, not absurd. It was just, it was over the top, and it was great. It was hilarious. Oh, those two actors that played those the main characters. They, especially,
funny.
I thought they both did great. I especially think the one that played, he was like less of the main
Daphne.
character. Yeah, Daphne. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm just like, ooh, he would be a fun person to be friends with in real life.
Yeah.
He just has a lot of character, a lot of personality.
When he's dancing with the rose. Yeah.
I just liked the way he was like talking though, like to people when he was pretending to be a girl, and he was like,
I'm a girl. I'm a girl.
like his like fake little laugh. Oh, that's so funny. Yep.
Yes, I'm excited to do that one on the pod. That was a great movie. Classic. I think that's it.
Cool.
Bye.
Love ya.